welcome back to the Gloves Off podcast. I'm your host, Kendall Skalicki.
And I'm Josh Bartosik.
So it's been a minute. We took a week off last week. We were on Thanksgiving break. We debated doing a Zoom episode, but there was a lot going on, and we just thought it would be better to wait. But yeah, so Penn State, we're in the tundra right now, as we were speaking about earlier. Walk over here was probably the worst since I've been at Penn State, I would say.
It was easily the worst ever since I've been here. And going back to like our freshman year when we played Michigan in football, that game was really, really cold. This was so much worse. It's like 40-mile-an-hour wind gusts. It feels like 1 degree outside. I can't do it.
Yeah, I went to leave my apartment and I checked the weather and it was like, feels like it's 4 degrees. I was like, oh, awesome. This is going to be fun. But yeah, how was your Thanksgiving?
It was good. It was really, really good. The football that day
loading.
wasn't good. Yeah, well, I'm trying to remember because I kind of passed out after I ate all that food. No, it was really, really good. Saw a lot of family I haven't seen in a while. Went back home where it wasn't 1 degree. It was 60 degrees. Sometimes I miss North Carolina weather. But all in all, it was really, really fun. Needed the break for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, awesome. All right, well, we're going to go back to the Michigan series for a few minutes, which I know is a little bit dated at this point, but we skipped an episode, and I think it's important to address. So Josh wasn't here. Josh was with football, but I got to do sideline for ringside for the Big Ten Plus stream, which was really cool because I got to hang out in between the benches for the whole game, and seeing like everything that goes on down there was so entertaining. Like, I didn't realize how much, also it was probably heightened because it was Penn State, Michigan, but how much the teams like interact. Like, they're yelling at each other the entire game. Like, for that, I'm like, there's no way you can even hear what each other are saying. But
awesome.
They were going at it. Reese had words. Danny had words. Saturday night was not pretty. Penn State was so angry that I decided to head out with like a minute left because I felt as though I should probably just remove myself.
I'd be pretty mad too, we'll get more in depth to it in a second, but yeah, I think that there were a lot of things to be upset about with that series, and that game especially. There are good and bad things in both games. For once, Penn State got off to a hot start, which is something that Gajanowski had emphasized a lot. You go back to the Wisconsin series. Both nights, especially. But it was really evident in Game 2 on Saturday. Game 1, they still got out to a pretty good start.
Friday we lost 6-5. We did DeMarsico open scoring on a power play, but then Michigan did get 4 straight in that first period.
Yeah. Michigan kind of showed their strength and their might. They kind of they kind of showed their teeth and their fangs a little bit. But then Penn State was able to come all the way back for the most part, right? We've talked about. It's one of the positives that you have to remind yourself of every time you're watching this Penn State team, and regardless of how bad their record looks in the Big Ten player overall, that when they get down, they aren't going down without a fight. They have made multiple multi-goal comebacks already this season. Granted, they've fallen short in the end. And we get a little bit into why they fell short against Michigan in a second. But overall, they were able to come all the way back, make it a 5-5 game in the third period. And it was really, again, against a team like Michigan, a top 5 team in the nation, you can't really ask for much more from your offense that finally got going. They scored a lot of goals that weekend. They've scored 21 goals over the last 4 games, which is really awesome. But a big positive, the offense came to play. The power play was really, really good.
Our
again,
offense is so good.
Watching
Aiden Fink and Reese Lawback together is so. I could watch them all day.
Watching them together, and then watching J.J. Weebush and Charlie Serrato was kind of like this year's Fink and Lawback because those two have such great chemistry. They combined for some really good goals against Colgate, but
Charlie's been doing awesome in face-offs.
Charlie's been great. He's got 8 points in the last 5 games. He's scored in 5 of the last 6. He's been awesome. Weebush on a 4-game point streak. But for Penn State, there were a lot of positives to take away from that series against Michigan, the big one being the fast start, scoring a lot of goals. But obviously the glaring issue was goaltending the entire weekend. It was a problem. You can't do what you did. It is only the 3rd and 4th time in Penn State program history that they have scored 5 or more goals and they've lost a game. And half of those times came that weekend against Michigan.
You can't let in 10 goals. That's just unacceptable.
Unfortunately, there's no other way to put it. It's unacceptable and it's just bad, right? Look, you give up 6 goals on 19 shots on Friday's game, which is not great. And we're not going to sit here and say that Michigan's goaltending was much better. It was also really bad. Michigan's got a lot of internal issues to worry about with their goaltending, given the way that series went for them.
Yeah, it was just goal after goal after goal, like both ways.
Defense was voluntary.
Yeah.
It was optional in that series. But
that's a great way to put it.
It was it was optional and voluntary. But Saturday's game was, I mean, there's no other way to put it. It was probably one of the worst on both sides. Probably one of the worst goaltending performances I think I've seen
Absolutely.
in my life, and it led to Noah Grant getting pulled after the 7th goal. The seventh goal was unbelievably brutal.
So that moment actually was really interesting because, like as I said, I was down there, and as soon as the puck went in the net, like the buzzer had barely gone off, and I looked over and Gadowski pointed at Seifarth, and he was like, "You're in." And John, you could tell John was like, "Oh my god!" Like he was like, "Oh, I'm about to have 6'4" Michigan guys skating." Like to go from, and like I know everyone's probably a little bit, this story has been everywhere, but to go from club hockey to having Michigan skating towards you is insane.
That's more than just a jump. That's a giant leap in terms of talent and pride.
But like that moment was so funny, and like part of me wondered if like you could tell like Gadowski and the whole team, their frustration was just growing and growing, and in that moment he was just like, I'm done. And then in my mind I'm like, I wonder if he's thinking right now, oh god, like what did I just do, like putting the third string goalie out there. But like he did well. He did phenomenal in the Colgate series. In Michigan he wasn't horrible. My heart kind of sunk when he went out at first. I was like, this is going to be like a 15-5 game. But it kind of just stayed, I think it stayed the same as if Noah was in probably.
Yeah, I mean, it was more so a thing, and Gadowski kind of talked about it in media this past week because we didn't see him after the Michigan series. Everybody went home. But that the team, like that game, like that series against Michigan, they did everything right except for the goaltending factor. And he said they needed a spark. Didn't necessarily give them a spark. They ended up losing that game 10-7, or 10-6.
And then they got that.
10-7.
Reese got that 5-minute major too. So.
Yeah, and you talked about the frustration showing, and that really came out in that Michigan series. It was undisciplined, and look, I get it. You think that you've done enough offensively to win that series. You just couldn't get the puck out of the net. It happens, but the undisciplinary penalties can happen. Didn't happen against Colgate. They played much better. And they were a lot better defensively in terms and disciplinary wise against Colgate. But
going off sorry to interrupt you, but going off the discipline too, what I spoke about during the Michigan series, like in my hits, was my whole thing was like they have to start strong. Like if we could take away the first period, this would be a totally different team. And then they did that in both games, but they have to stop. I forget what DeMarco called it, the snowball effect, he kind of said. Like, once the other team scores, they have a tendency to fall apart for a few minutes, and then in those few minutes, it's, like, detrimental, because then you're down 3-4-1.
So it happened against Michigan, it happened against Wisconsin, you're absolutely right. I think a lot of it, too, is it's a very young team. I mean, these are a bunch of young guys, one of the youngest teams in the nation, one of the youngest teams in the Big Ten. They're still trying to figure things out. I think they did a really good job figuring it out as a whole against Colgate. I love the way that they played in front of John Seifarth. I will talk a little bit more about that. They really rallied around a guy who had never started a Division I game and then came away from that series with 2 wins, which is huge. But yeah, the Michigan series was extremely frustrating because with the Wisconsin one, it was the slow starts. It was obviously, and that played them in both games. That was frustrating for a different reason. This one was frustrating because Penn State had finally fixed every other problem they had leading up to that series, and then the goaltending just fell apart. Yep. It was terrible timing for Arseni to get hurt. It's terrible time for Noah Grannon to just have there's no other way to put it, a dud of a series, an absolute dud, an absolute stinker, really, is the way to put it. And, I mean, things happened, and it led to Seifarth getting the nod for both games against Colgate, which ended up working in Penn State's favor. We'll see how the rest of the season goes on. I think a lot of the season depends on the health of Arseni Sergeyev. I mean, what Seifarth did is great. Do not discredit by any means. But how long can it be kept up is the question.
Yeah, and I also feel like, and Coach touched on this a little bit, I feel like it woke up the defense a little bit, not having him in net. Obviously, he played awesome that one. He had it was like the number 2 spot for top play of the
the most ridiculous stick save I've seen in my life. It was crazy.
As you said, like not taking anything away from him, but like defense, knowing he was in net, I think they woke up a little bit and stepped it up, and that's why the Colgate series went a lot better. But yeah, I think it's a mix of discipline, as you said, and like just too many pucks in the net. Like to score, so we scored 11 goals in that Michigan series and lost both games.
Yeah,
like
it's unheard of.
Yeah.
Really, it's bad. And then it's gonna be something to watch out for, 100%.
Yeah.
Until Penn State is able to figure out the health situation with Arsenij Sergeyev.
Yeah.
Obviously, you want to make sure he's 100% before you put him out there again. Tough to see him go down the way he did against Wisconsin, because they really could have used him in that series against Michigan. And I think Colgate is a very good team this year. They're currently near the top of the ECAC, a team that had scored a lot of goals, averaged a lot of goals. They had beat Quinnipiac, a team Penn State couldn't beat before that series that they played. And then they'd also beat Princeton earlier, which is a Princeton team that just swept the team that Penn State's playing this week. Later today.
Yeah. Where are they, 7 or 7:30?
I think 7:30. Okay. I'm not sure. I'd have to double check. But all in all, how long can Cypher get? Maybe Cypher is a gem in the rough, a hidden gem for Penn State, for a guy to come over and do what he did. But it's gonna be tough. This is a ranked team on the road. Won't be the most hostile environment he's played in. Ohio State, unfortunately, doesn't get as many fans, I think, as they would like for their hockey games.
Yes, and it's so we talked about this in class, but yeah. So if you didn't know, Big Ten championship for football is this Saturday, and Ohio State was so confident that they would have a spot in it that they made this hockey series Thursday, Friday instead of Friday, Saturday. So Penn State taking that spot is just hilarious. And on top of it, they don't get a huge crowd for hockey.
It's really funny, and it goes to show that you can't put all your eggs in one basket.
Yes.
I mean, obviously going to Penn State anytime Ohio State makes a blunder, we're not gonna not be happy about it. So it's very funny. I'm hoping that Penn State's able to capitalize off that. A weird short week. They practiced yesterday and then also left at the same time. So it's a very interesting schedule, having it bumped up like that. I think, though, with the way that Penn State's been playing, especially how they did in that Colgate series, they've got all the momentum right now. Ohio State has no momentum. They lost to Princeton. They're on a shorter rest period. They played after Thanksgiving. Penn State played before. And they just... You're coming off getting swept. You're not entirely sure what your team is right now. Sure, you're still ranked, but it's one of those things where it's like, well, what exactly is this gonna do for us? They only scored 2 goals, and a lot of it was because they could not beat Princeton's goaltending. They had, I believe, 68 shots through 2 games in that series and only scored 2 goals, and that is going to be a story to really watch out for this weekend, because John Seifert faced a lot of pucks. He faced 50 and he stopped 47 of them. But if he faces over 60, it could potentially get ugly. Penn State's defense, I think, is a lot better than Princeton's in terms of just their structure, their blue line as a whole. They have a lot more depth and a lot more guys that can really fill into those roles. But Penn State, I think, will have to do what they do best, which is limiting the opposing team's shots and piling on shots of their own.
Yeah, absolutely. And Coach's biggest takeaway from the Colgate series was he was waiting to see the offense and the defense both have good games, and he said we finally had a 200-foot game, which was so important. So I think John needs to ride this high and keep it up, but the defense also needs to really step it up. It would be really awesome to see them sweep. I also got to speak with Aiden Fink this week, and I just want to talk about his mentality for a second. He I think if the whole team could channel this, or anybody, it's just so cool. He just spoke about, I asked him because Godowski was praising, he was every time he's on the ice, he is giving 110%. And we've spoken about this before. And Godowski's thing this year is the Penn State toughness, that grit, the effort. And Aiden was just saying, he feels so lucky to be here and so lucky to play hockey. And he thinks of that every shift. And I think that really shows for him. And it's just awesome to see someone that's so happy to be there and eager to get on the ice, and it comes through in his playing. And I think if they can all have that mentality, they could use a sweep this weekend. I'm banking on it for them. Yeah, I mean, well,
part of that mentality is the reason that Aiden Fink is third in the nation in points right now with 21. And I don't know the last time we could say this far into a season, about a third of the way through, that there was a Penn State guy near the top 10 in terms of points. on the team. Probably Alex Limoges years ago, guys like that. Liam Folks way back when Penn State was one of the better teams in the Big Ten when they won the Big Ten championship during that little stretch. But he's been so fun to watch, and it's great to see him. What a steal the Predators got in the 7th round. You just really need Penn State to find a way to build off of these last few games. Even though they lost the games against Michigan, they lost both games, they played like 90%, 95% of that series was good, was positive for them. I think you can take a lot of positives from that. The scoring, the offense came alive. Again, 21 goals in the last 4 games is like legit unheard of.
Yeah.
It's great for them. They're a team that prides themselves on shooting the puck a lot, and the puck is going in, and it helps that they have a lot of really young and exciting talent on this team. And it's led by Aiden Fink. He's already become one of the biggest leaders on this team in just his sophomore season. Reese Lawback as well is a guy that has been another one of the. I mean, the entire team just kind of lead by example as a whole. Everyone on the team kind of plays a role in being a leader. But I agree with you. I think they could really, really use a sweep this weekend in terms of getting back on track in the Big Ten, getting back into the midst of things. You do not want to go 0-8 in Big Ten play, and then your next game against a Big Ten opponent is at Wrigley Field after New Year's, because next week you play Army at Capital One. We have a lot of fun games coming up this month for Penn State, but this is probably the best opportunity that Penn State's going to have to sweep a series on the road. Besides, or actually, really, technically, their only one, because they don't really get a full road series against Notre Dame because the neutral site game on the 3rd, and then they play Notre Dame on the road on the 5th, and that's it. So this is really their best opportunity. This is an Ohio State team that I think is very vulnerable right now. It's a Penn State team that plays very well against Ohio State. They swept them in the games last year. They won all 4, scored a lot of goals in the process as well. I believe it was 15 goals in those 4 games. They played with the exact same goaltending tandem that the Buckeyes have now. It's going to be really, really important for Penn State to win Game 1 especially. I mean, it's always harder to win Game 2 than Game 1, but they got to start hot. This is an opportunity for Penn State to prove that they were just on the wrong foot to start the year. I think that this team has so much potential, and they know it. They've shown it a lot of the time. It just has to come together for a full 60 minutes. It has to be everyone firing on all cylinders. We saw it against Colgate. We saw it mostly against Michigan, and you got to really, really show it against Ohio State, because the pairwise is going to start to really matter in this next month or so, really after New Year's. And if you have a top 20 road sweep on your resume, you're going to look really, really good for the back half of the season. It's going to be a tough back half of the season for Penn State as well, with the amount of talent in the Big Ten this year.
Absolutely, and I think in terms of players to watch for this weekend, or week-ish, I think in Lawback, that goes without saying. That's going to be the next few years. Just they're just dominating, and together, I think it's going to be sad when they're not playing together one day, because they just do so well with one another. And then Serrato is having an awesome season face-off-wise. I love how he plays. He plays so tough. He wants it. Another one that wants it so bad. Again, seeing him on the bench. I think he'll grow even more when honestly, a few of the young guys have to learn to channel the frustration in different ways rather than taking penalties. I think that's been a little bit of a lingering issue as well. When they get angry, they go out there, and then it gets even worse when you're taking a bunch of penalties out of frustration. But Serrato has just exceeded a lot of people's expectations, I think. So definitely him as well. DeMarsico, I would love to see Genev get back on the sheet, get a goal this game, and some of the older guys too. They're kind of letting these younger guys dominate a little bit. I love to see some of the junior, senior, 5th-year class get a few this weekend. I don't know if that's going to happen, but it would be nice to see them step up a little bit.
I think this is a really, really exciting series for Penn State.
Yeah.
I think that it comes at a really, really good time. Again, Penn State has all the momentum in this one because of the fact that Ohio State, coming off getting swept, they played Friday, Saturday. Now they're playing a Thursday, Friday. Penn State's had over a week of rest. They're able to enjoy their Thanksgiving without having to travel to Princeton like Ohio State did.
Yeah.
But again, but at the same time, this is going to be an Ohio State team that is going to come in with a chip on their shoulder because they just got swept. They want to get back on the right foot. They're going to come out swinging and firing off the gate, or right out of the gate. And that's where those fast starts really come into play. You have to do the same thing you've done the last 4 games. Start strong, get the first goal. Do not let the game snowball like Matt DeMarco has talked about multiple times. You have to be able to get the first goal and continue and build off of that. Give your goaltender, either it being Noah Grant or John Seifarth this weekend, or tonight, I should say, and tomorrow, give them a cushion. Give them a little bit of breathing room early on. Don't make it so that they have to steal a game for you. It's not a goaltending tandem right now that has the ability to steal a game for you. They might be able to. I think Seifarth played really, really well in Game 1 and Game 2, obviously, against Colgate, but more so in Game 1 because of the stakes in that game. It was tied going into the third period. He made the crucial saves and the timely saves he needed to. Had a lot more breathing room, obviously, in a 7-1 victory in Game 2. It was like 5-0 after the first period.
Yeah.
So a lot more breathing room. But they have to be able to kind of give their goaltenders some confidence and a cushion to build off of. You don't want to make it in a situation where you're basically begging whichever goaltender you have in net to steal a couple saves for you.
Yeah, Dowiak, too, is another guy to watch. He's really stepped up as well. He's another one that's fun to watch. He gets really amped up whenever he can get one on the board. And then Schoen, too, he's doing well coming back. I think physically he's still working on himself. I know we were talking about in media, they don't know about him playing at center, being more physically demanding. But, I mean, honestly, I don't have much else to say. Like, I think they're hungry for this. I think last series, everything kind of came together a little bit. Obviously, defense has to be on with Arseni out. And I think if they played like they did the last 2 series, minus the goaltending in the Michigan series, then they can leave Columbus with a sweep.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it all depends on just how they come out tonight and start that game. I think it'll be huge.
See, I'm afraid to say that now because we did start strong at Michigan.
Yeah, we've been saying every single week that we think Penn State's gonna, get a sweep.
Yeah, we have. We're a little bit biased.
We're a little bit biased. I do think though that Penn State, I think they'll get it mostly because they kind of have to get it at this point, right?
Yeah.
I mean, look, they've been swept twice at home already this season. One of them against a Wisconsin team that at the time was struggling. Now they're playing a lot better, but still, pairwise when it comes down to it, when it starts to matter in the next few weeks. It doesn't care about that. It's all about the statistical value. And at the time, Penn State was struggling. Or not Penn State. Wisconsin was struggling. It was a bottom team in terms of pairwise. But yeah, when the pairwise starts to matter these next few weeks, Penn State's got to find a way to steal one on the road. And it's going to come. It should come. Their best opportunity for it to happen is against an Ohio State team that has played very well to start the year. Had a bit of a down week. Maybe you can capitalize off of that if you're Penn State. And I think that they have a huge task in front of them because you're kind of already down in terms of the goaltender department. You're missing a goaltender. You're missing your starting goaltender. But no matter who is between the pipes these next 2 days, the defense has got to play just as well as they did against Colgate and continue that throughout the rest of the season.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's... I guess we'll do predictions, even though I'm a little afraid.
I guess.
I'll say I'm going to go tonight 4-2 Penn State, and I'm going to go Saturday maybe like 4-3. Is that fair?
I mean, don't look at me. I've said a sweep like almost every single week. I think that tonight's game, because of the goaltending situation for Penn State and the fact that they love scoring against Ohio State a lot, I'm going to go a 5-4 overtime victory for Penn State.
Oh, okay.
We'll throw a little overtime in there. They've gotten close. And then I think they kind of pick things up a little bit in Friday's game. I'll say 4-2, maybe 4. I might go 4-3 as well. I think a lot of it just depends on, the goaltending is just such a huge question mark now for Penn State. And it was last year. We didn't think it was going to be going into this season, but now because of health concerns, it is.
Yeah, he has to. But, I mean, if they could get this sweep and then he's in, hopefully, I don't know if he's planning on playing the Army game.
You should be fine against Army. You should be fine against Army without.
I would imagine he would sit that out just for.
And then you would wait, and you'd hope to have him back for Wrigley.
Yeah, I think that's what we're gonna see. So if they could get these 2 wins under their belt and then have him come back, I think hopefully they can turn the season around. I will say though, like in series past, I'm like, oh yeah, I think we're gonna sweep. It was more of like we have to. Like I wanted to see that because the season was like going like this week. Like I really feel like they can do it this week.
I think this is their best opportunity to do so. Wisconsin, it was a struggle because Wisconsin started to really catch fire, or they caught fire in that first game. They were just so bedridden by bad puck luck going into that series, and the puck luck turned around for them in that again the 2 games against Penn State. And I think that Penn State has a real shot this week to sweep against Ohio State. I've always believed that every single year that the polls seem to overrate Ohio State a little bit ever since they were a little bit more decent when Jakub Dovic was in it a few years ago. I mean, last year they were ranked. I can't remember if they were ranked to start the year, but they were picked over they were picked to be like top 5 in the Big Ten. They finished last. So I think that Penn State should hopefully take advantage of a Ohio State team that is still good. Don't get me wrong; they're still a very good Ohio State team. There's a lot of good talent on that team, a lot of transfers that came in and performed very well for them. But I think that Penn State has the capability to take advantage of a team that is maybe on the start of a downward spiral. We'll have to see, but you have to be able to take advantage of it now. They're catching them at a really good time. Penn State is a team, again, just got swept, shorter week, potentially the start of a little bit of a downfall with the rough schedule coming up for Ohio State. So you can't take these opportunities for granted, especially in a conference that's as tightly contested and so much talent resides in the Big Ten.
Yes, sir. Before we hop off, we will touch on Big Ten Championship Saturday.
A little bit.
What are your thoughts? I'm curious. I keep going back and forth like every day.
The problem, I'm super excited because look, we're seniors and like we're never get this opportunity again to see this as a student.
Yeah.
So I'm making the drive tomorrow. That long, awesome 8-hour drive to Indianapolis. But I don't know because like I would have been fine not playing the Big Ten Championship and then having a home playoff game. Now there's a possibility I think it's a win-win for Penn State either way, though, because if you win the game, you win the Big Ten Championship, you're probably the number 1 seed going into the playoffs, which
Can you imagine? That would be so
to think
dope.
about.
Yeah.
Absurd to think about even going into this season. And I think as long as you don't lose by like 3 or 4 touchdowns or 3 or 4 scores, you keep it close for the majority of the game against Oregon, you're still going to be probably the 5 seed, maybe worst case scenario the 6 seed, and you're still hosting a home playoff game. Penn State's locked into the playoff. They're going to make it regardless.
Yeah.
It's just, would you rather see Penn State play at home next week? I think if you're on the team, you want to win this game, not just for the Big Ten Championship and the number 1 seed, but also get a week off. They've played a lot of games in a row. They've been a little bit banged up. That football team has been. But as a student, as a biased student, I'm going to want to say that I'm hoping for a home playoff game. But I am obviously rooting for Penn State in the Big Ten Championship game. I think it's
you are?
Yes. Go Ducks. No. I think it's going to be an awesome game. I mean, Oregon's offense is so fun to watch. Penn State's defense is so fun to watch. It's like the best of both worlds. You really can't ask for a better opportunity for Penn State to really kind of prove themselves as a top team in the nation. I think they've already done it so far this year, despite what people will say outside of Penn State that like they haven't played anybody good. Well, they beat the teams they were supposed to beat. Ohio State couldn't beat a 6-5 Michigan team. So win the games you're supposed to win, lose the games you're supposed to lose, and you find your way in, and that's what Penn State's done. So I think it's going to be an awesome environment. I think it's so cool to see a team in their first year in the Big Ten make it like Oregon did, and I'm just hoping for a good game. I don't even care who wins. Obviously, I care a little bit who wins, but as long as it gets close.
I just don't want to get blown out.
I think that's the big thing.
Yes.
No one wants to lose by because if you get blown out, then you can really see Penn State drop a lot in the rankings.
I think it's either going to be down to the wire, really close, and we take it, or I fear we could get blown out.
It depends.
I think it's one of the two.
The one bit of football analysis I'll give on this, because I'm not the big football analysis guy. Those are our friends my friend over and Justin Chevalella, who's the big football guy for Comm Radio and everything that they do over there. But this is going to be Oregon's a team that loves the shootouts. They are a team that, when it comes down to it, if you're going to get into an offensive shootout with Oregon, you're going to lose because they can put up 50 points if they really want to. But Penn State's a team that loves to play really tightly close-knit games. When you look at a team like Ohio State, they held them to just 20 points. They've held a lot of teams to really low point totals this entire season. So if Penn State has to just force Oregon to play their game. If it's a slow, methodical, defense-driven game, I think Penn State wins. If it starts becoming one of those where the teams are trading blows on offense, I don't think Penn State's offense can keep up with Oregon's. I think eventually they would get exhausted by probably the third quarter, and then it could get really out of hand for Penn State. But
Yeah.
I think we're in for a fantastic game regardless.
I agree. So let's manifest an Ohio State sweep and a
It could
Big
be
Ten
one of
championship
the best weekends for Penn State sports this week.
Or-
Women's volleyball kicks
Yes.
off their national championship attempt tonight. Actually, I don't know how it's like championship run, but they haven't won one in a while. Hosting the entire regional, they play Delaware State today, and then the winner of UNC Yale if they win against Delaware State. But I mean, there's a lot of fun stuff to think about. For Penn State, wrestling is starting to kick off really soon, but lots.
We know
of
how that'll go, though.
Yeah, well, we always know how that
Dynasty.
goes for Penn State wrestling, but there's an opportunity for there to be a lot of W's for Penn State athletics this week.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like we have gotten our share of bad karma, and I think we're due for
Maybe
like
it's
some
turning
wins.
around. We'll see.
Yeah.
Especially for football especially, they've been riddled with bad karma for the last few years. Just close, but never close enough. Now they are close enough to really make some noise.
Yes, sir. Okay, well, that's all we have. This episode was a little messy because, as I said, we were not here. So it was like
We were a little
coming
off
back,
our
we were
game.
like, wait, what happened?
Yeah.
But yeah, next week we will hopefully get a guest on, and then they'll be heading to Capital One to face Army. But first, we have to see how this weekend goes. I am your host, Kendall Skalicki.
And I'm Josh Bartosik.
See you next week.